So, Mike, we always start this talking about your media appearances, but guess what? I did a podcast this week.
You did
I
for
did.
CNBC. Who?
No, for a cyber security marketing group. And one of my favorite things about it was at the end, they said, okay, if you weren't in cybersecurity marketing, what would you do instead? And the two hosts had to guess what I would do. And one of them
Play
guessed.
football for USC. You know you want to. Come on.
One of them guessed something even less likely than that. Even less likely.
Okay.
Professional dancer.
Oh, really?
So we're gonna leave it at that, and now we're gonna talk about cyber.
And now we're
cyber
going to
news.
find out why you're not a professional dancer, and let's talk about things that matter.
So, but I did meet one of them when I was in Las Vegas at Black Hat.
Ooh,
Um,
Vegas
and
is having a bad day.
that kind of gets us to the news that we have today. Let's
hmm
talk about Las Vegas. What's going on? The MGM resorts hit?
It's starting to look like a trend because not only have MGM resorts been hit, and apparently they have a lot of stuff still down. They are coming back up. Apparently the gaming floor is back up. But they had all kinds of problems where people couldn't get into their rooms.
Mm-hmm.
They couldn't use credit cards. All kinds of things didn't work for a few days at least. My sense is that they have not paid an extortion demand.
Yep.
On the other hand, Caesars also got hit earlier in the week, and they apparently paid millions of dollars to get out of it. So, one of these things happening, could be aberrational. Two of these happening in the same week starts to look like a trend. And so,
And I mean, there's a lot of folks who are like, oh yeah, it was Black Hat. Somebody must have gotten in and are now executing the
nah,
attacks. It's not that.
no, these are guys doing criming here. And so one of our VCSOs has some pretty good contacts that scan the dark web pretty
Mm-hmm.
regularly and
Mm-hmm.
interact with these groups. And the one with MGM, the Alpha V gang, is bragging that it took them something like 12 minutes from initial access to full network admin access.
Oh,
That's awful. And you know,
that is
I
awful. I
don't, I
mean,
don't.
especially
Well, I don't know this firsthand, but what I've heard is casino networks are kind of flat, not very segmented. So, I mean, that really aids in that kind of speed.
yeah, yeah, and I mean, um, and by the way, one of friends of the company, April at Seattle
hmm
Public Schools, she posted, after the MGM attack, if a company like MGM can get taken down,
hmm
then how do you think about this as a school district or a city or, I mean, MGM has how much money to spend on cybersecurity?
Well, that the question is not how much money they have to spend; it's how much did they spend.
Yeah, 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 for
I mean,
sure.
how serious were they? So, the reason that MGM is holding up their hand right now is because of the new SEC rule, which I think we'll get to in a second. We'll talk a little more about. They said this could have a material impact on the company. So, again, they did an evaluation of this, found out that it's going to have a material impact, have to make this public report 4 days after making that determination. So, now we're going to see what happens with stock price and customer flight and whether or not records were disclosed that, allow
Right?
high-end
They
gaming
had to,
customers to be targeted.
yeah, they had to file the 8K. Of course they
Yep.
did. Yep.
hmm
Yep, yep, yep. And for people who watch this, you know exactly what we're talking about.
hmm
By the way, speaking of ransomware gangs, this group, do you pronounce it Reseda? Is that, I guess
Reseda, close
Reseda?
enough.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like placed in California. Three more hospitals attacked.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
not good.
I mean, so this is not an accident. They are targeting hospitals, and this is kind of in line with a lot of things that I'm reading about countries, nation states really working hard at destabilization efforts. I'll just touch on this real quick. During the Maui wildfires,
Hmm.
a whole lot of Chinese disinfo was hitting, saying that those were caused by experimentation with U.S. weaponry. All right, which is
Mm-hmm.
dumb. but you know a whole lot of people are perfectly willing to believe that, right? That is destabilizing. It's not really their fault. That's really our fault.
Hmm.
That's all I'll say about that.
Uh-huh. Well, I mean, but back to things that are their fault. But maybe we're doing something about it. One of the good things that happened this week is some ransomware actors were charged.
Yeah, we caught.
In Southern
We
California.
didn't catch them.
Right. We're
We
charging
charged them.
them, and they're in Russia. So, but I mean, I hope we see more of this. Like, hey, now you're stuck in Russia.
Well, now we got to tie that loop off, right? Which means anytime they travel out of the country and we have an opportunity to snatch them, we're gonna.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and I certainly hope that we do, and I certainly hope that we can see them in court, because these are the worst people in the world.
Yeah,
No,
I
people who
told you
take
what I want
down.
to see happen on live TV.
I did, but we'll get kicked off LinkedIn and YouTube
I
and
know. I'm not going
Facebook
to
if
say it again.
you, uh, yeah, there you go. By the way, we have a comment on LinkedIn. Somebody says the MGM incident could be the next plot for Ocean's 15. Although at this point, I think we're at like Ocean's 52. But yeah,
Hmm.
it's something like that.
Hmm.
Um, Speaking of healthcare, one more thing here, which is just this morning, the AHA sent out a note warning hospitals about deepfakes. That the AI, I mean, obviously AI has gotten so good that there's a warning that hey, you could get a video or a phone call from your hospital CEO or CFO, asking you to do something, and
Hmm.
it's just deep fake. I mean,
Well, you guys, so I haven't read the article yet. I just kind of skimmed it, but you got to ask yourself, are they saying this because it's an abstraction, it's something that might happen, or they've been seeing it? Can you tell?
I can't tell. I can't tell.
Yeah.
But what I can tell you is that that just yesterday we started preparing for our AI panel that we're going
Hmm.
to do with our friend Mike Borgia at a law firm, Davis Wright Tremaine,
Hmm.
and he does a bunch of AI ethics stuff, but we're going to talk about it as it relates to cyber attacks. And one of the things that we're going to talk about when we do this webinar with him is because of deep fakes, because the attackers can, have can use AI and they can get so much better, as a security policy, you just have to trust your users less, right? If you know that your users could get tricked,
Hmm.
this much, and now they can get tricked this much,
Well,
trust your
I mean, I'm
users less.
telling you, prohibit the use of the internet from a work location. Make all personal use happen on a personal device.
Hmm.
That's going to run a whole lot of the problem off the cliff. And at some point we got to get to that. But I'll say too, the this whole deep fake, you know, making it very much easier to fool people by emulating someone of authority. Federal government's putting together a strategy right now on how to regulate this. So we may be coming with some regulation that will help. I will say that regulation will apply to legal businesses and not illegal activities. So I don't know how much that will help. I think what's going to be more helpful are some of the efforts that the DoD is starting to implement now, where they're getting real serious about this.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. But I mean, I don't know. I also think that, once the technology is out there, you know, uh, China, Russia, North Korea, I mean, we can put all the controls on it we want. But, they can just build it separately in China and build it without the controls. So, I mean,
Well,
sure.
and now they have a better mechanism to reach directly, not through social media or some easily observable platform, but through email surgically, because everybody is signing up for this thing called Temu, right? This is a competitor to Amazon, and they're selling stuff really cheaply, right? So it's direct manufacturer stuff. So I mean that's their claim. But hey, you sign up with your email address, China now knows your email address. And so rather than spraying disinformation out in the public sphere where everybody can see it and share it, they're going to send it right to you. And that's going to be a lot harder to detect. And when we talk about destabilization efforts, I think this is one we really need to watch.
I mean, I feel like China has known my email address for a long time, but I,
Mm.
you know,
They have mine.
uh, I mean, you are live on YouTube and LinkedIn, and then your favorite platform, Meta, right now. So there you
Mhm.
go. Um, hey, another really important piece of news: those SEC rules that we'd been talking about now in
Mhm.
effect, which is why MGM had to file
Mhm.
the 8K.
Yep.
But I mean, that's been a real big change in the market.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's the reporting. So we did a panel on this. It's the
Hmm.
reporting rules, and that's kind of what sucked all the air out of the room. But it's really about governance, risk management, making sure that the board is informed. And I'm reading too that board members are really struggling to understand these kinds of risks. And part of the reason is that their information security officers still talk in too much of a technical language and don't ground things in business and money issues that are important to the C suite. So, there's a little bit of an evolution that needs to come in our own business. And this is all it. It's not about scary SQL injection and buffer overflow. It's about unauthorized disclosure of protected records followed by class action, right? It's pretty straightforward, but we all need to change our lexicon if we're going to be talking to the C suite and get them to listen.
Yeah, I mean, at the same time, I think that there might be more, more appetite for risk. There might be, hey, if MGM's going to get knocked over, then we're going to
Hmm.
get knocked over, and it's not even worth spending on.
Well, that just means insurance has to work properly, right? Because you can transfer that risk through insurance. And, today this is a pretty foreseeable threat. I think the confluence of insurance companies not really being able to price risk correctly, government coming out with lots and lots of regulation, privacy statutes that make it easy to perform a class action after an unauthorized disclosure of privacy information. We're beating our own business sector to death.
Well, and as somebody who's currently dealing with an insurance claim on personal side, not business side, I can tell you it's super easy, and insurance companies, pay up immediately. So, on another topic,
Mhm.
uh, um, the Pentagon has a revamped cyber strategy.
They do. And so this I alluded to this a minute ago. Offense is the new defense. Okay, this is part of this defend forward strategy.
Hmm.
And so, the Pentagon, the DoD, they're not having it. They're going to try and take down operations before they end up, you know, uh, uh, affecting our critical infrastructure, causing kinetic events, things like this. I mean, we're seeing dams fail all over the world. Dam failed here. We're in dire straits.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, those dams are failing for a different reason, but so there's that, right? Offense is the new defense in their revamped cyber strategy. Meanwhile, Russia is warning that all-out war could erupt over worsening cyber activity between countries, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
So if we poke them back, they're saying that they're going to go kinetic on us. So this is
Hmm.
getting a little tricky, right? We really don't want our infrastructure knocked down if there are actors that are doing that on the other side of the world, melting their infrastructure so that they cannot perform that is something that the DoD wants to do, and that could be looked at as an act of war. And then here we go. And by the way, like, I'm not going to dive into this, but another article out says the global cyber weapon market is set for substantial growth. Right? Put all these things together, and it doesn't look good.
Well, but I got to disagree with you a little bit. I mean, if we looked at all cyber attacks as acts of war, we'd be at actual war with Russia right now over knocking over hospitals. So,
Mm, yeah, yeah, yeah.
so
That's exactly right. Right. So now, and the Pentagon is saying, well, that's the way we're going to handle it. They didn't do that before. Now they're going to do that.
yeah, and I mean, yeah, I mean, Russia every now and then, rattles its saber and talks about all out war with the U.S. I don't know. I think, for whatever reason, we and Russia do not put these cyber attacks in the same category as real war. We don't.
That's changing. That is changing, and I don't know if you saw the article about The Hague, right? The International Criminal Court. They have signaled their intention to prosecute hacking crimes that breach international law without the need for any new regulations. This is going to change things a bit too. I don't know what capability they have to pull somebody out of a country without an extradition treaty, but they've prosecuted in absentia before. We'll see where this goes, but
Yeah, I mean they sure have. The Hague is not known for being fast.
no.
So when we say we'll see, it'll be a while.
Mhm.
It'll be a while. All right, Mike. We're getting towards the end here. Threats and vulns. What do you got?
So we just got Microsoft patches. I've rebooted both of my laptops right here. You should too. There are 59 different patches, 20 days. There's a bunch of stuff. The Azure HD Insight Analytics service is also vulnerable. Researchers come up with 8 vulnerabilities there. Pay attention to that. Update your iPhones. I think it's 16.6.1 is where we are now. I just updated mine because Pegasus spyware is starting to show up on iPhones, right? It's the zero-click stuff. Not sure who's behind that. There are fake Telegram apps on Google Play that are actually spyware, so don't think you're gonna, download Telegram and join one of their channels. You may be giving up your own farm. Adobe Cold Fusion, which I'm a little surprised still exists, is being exploited right now to deploy malware. So if you have Cold Fusion, make sure that gets updated. The proof of concept is out for VMware ARIA SSH authorization bypass vulnerability. So if you are a VMware ARIA user, look at that. And so patch your iPhone, patch Chrome, patch Android, patch Mozilla, put those Microsoft patches to work by rebooting your computer, and everything will be cool.
So you're saying just reboot my whole life this morning? Everything
Yeah.
will be fine. All right. Well, I'm right on that. I'm right on that.
Okay.
All right. So, Mike, at the end of all of these, and we've had some pretty rough topics today. A little cyber war, hotel issues, worried about schools, hospitals. It's been a rough one. Do you have a story to end this that will
Yes,
make
but
us
it's not
all...
funny. It's not funny.
What do you got?
I just think this is interesting, and this relates to something that you and I have been talking about for a few years, saying this whole bit about activism is going to hit the radar, and it's going to become a substantial signal here in the cyber world, okay? So the title of the article is Brits Happy to Break Cyber Law If the Price is Right. Now, what you would think if you just read that title is that, hey, they're willing to go into criminality, all right? That is not what this article says. It says the most acceptable scenarios to the general public include hacking to stop war crimes against civilians, to stop terrorist organizations, or to fight human rights abuses and organized crime. All right. So that means people want to get into the fight for good reasons. Smaller numbers of people said they would hack to stop dictatorships, to prevent illegal immigrants from entering the country, to uncover environmental impacts from corporations. This is activism, man, and I'm telling you, this stuff is ramping up. And you've seen there's a bunch of layoffs in cyber companies right now. Okay, where are they going to go? What are they going to do? A lot of money in crime. Activism is probably pretty fulfilling as well. The landscape is changing quickly. It's not funny, but that's where we are.
That was definitely not funny, but nice job, Mike. All right, y'all. A couple of quick things. Security awareness training is tomorrow on Friday. You can sign up on our website, criticalinsight.com, hit events, and you can sign up for that. You can sign up for that AI discussion that we talked about. With the NIST CSF 2.0 coming out, Mike was part of a conference with one of our partners, CyberSaint, this week. If you're interested in seeing his appearance there, shoot him an email and he can send you a link. And of course, we're helping a lot of folks move towards NIST CSF 2.0. If you want to talk about getting your organization aligned, happy to help you. All right, everybody. Have a good day. Mike, next time, something funnier at the end. Bye, everybody.
Do my best.